Right then, now that our putty's had time to dry and a few other things, we can sort of move along with this. Now, we've got here our first, our wing section, as you can see. Now, we've got our air brakes here as well. This fits on here absolutely lovely in the open position. I want to go for the closed position with this one, so the instructions do say we need to get rid of these sort of lumps and bumps just inside here. Now, I mean, we could try and get in here with a blade and just try and sort of cut them out, which yes, you can to a certain degree, sort of get them out. We could come in with skinny sticks as well and try and sand them out, but really, you know, it's a tool I don't really use that often, but when I do use it, it can be quite helpful. And that's a nice little chisel here, and this one is, I do believe it was by Trump, so they wasn't cheap, but as I say, they can be useful when they come into use. So for instance, this sort of right up against the corner here, which is a bit hard to get to with a chisel, it isn't so hard. We can just literally just scrape this up, and we haven't got to worry about anything looking nasty or anything like that, because this is going to be completely and utterly covered. We just want to get in here and just rip this up, right, and that's all we need to do. And as you can see, it just rips up really easily. It's quite sort of sharp. You know, it is a tool that is actually very, very, you know, it does feel like it's a good quality tool, because I mean, you know, it is, you know, pretty solid, pretty strong. I mean, it's not going to be easy to bend this or anything like that, but yeah, that's all sorted there. And then we want to try and sort of put this in as nice as we possibly can. The only problem is it doesn't actually fit so good. I mean, it just seems to bulge out, as you can see, just that little bit, and that little bit is enough to sort of mess this fit up. Just want to get this out nicely. So we just pop that out. All it needs is just a little bit. If I get out the right sanders, it just needs that tiny bit of a sanding. So I'm just coming in with sort of like a medium grit here. Now this is a nice flat sanding stick, and it just needs, right, a light little sanding, just sort of a little bit, you know, just all the way around, just generally, but really lightly. Right, we really don't want to go too far with this, because when it comes to sanding stuff away, it's a lot easier, right, to do a bit more sanding than it is to actually go off and actually make something, say, a bit bigger. Right, so I've just done a little bit of sanding, and then we want to test fit this, right, and you know, that is seeming a little bit better, but it still needs a little bit more. So it is a case of do a bit of sanding, do it nice and lightly, and then test fit until it just slots in perfectly, rather than just really going at it, sanding it, and then you find out, oh no, you've ended up making massive gaps, which then you've got to kind of fill them in and stuff. So, you know, nice light sanding. Right, so with that nice bit of light sanding, hopefully as you can see now, we've got no bulges or anything like that. So we can simply use our Tamiya Extra Thin Cement again, and we just want to touch this, right? We really don't want to kind of lay it down thick, because we don't want no sort of like loads of oozing out plastic. We just want to sort of like touch this and just run it along very nicely, right, and that should glue this into place lovely. Right, being very careful. Right, now this isn't going to be perfect. You know, it's not going to look like the rest of, say, the model. And what I mean by this is where I'm doing these glue lines now, really these are sort of like panel lines, and you know, it's not going to look like the rest of the panel lines on the model, as you can see, because we're gluing them in. It's not going to be perfectly uniform and everything. So for situations like this, me personally, I like to go off and I will sort of fill, sand, rescribe, re-rivet all of this to make it look as if we didn't take a piece and glue it on here, as if this was the normal, natural surface detail like the rest of the model. You know, that's the way I personally like it. So I'll show you how to do that, but we do need to let that dry rock hard, because that's another thing about using Tamiya X Thin Cement and those types of glues is they're not like super glue where it sort of binds two pieces together. As I say, you know, it's a glue. We know it melts the two pieces of plastic, brings them together. Now, although it might appear as though it is dry, say after just, you know, maybe half an hour, that plastic isn't cured, right? It needs, you know, a good sort of couple of days for that plastic to cure, go off, go rock hard, and go back to just being solid plastic. Because we could come along, do some scribing, get a P cutter, start P cutting in there, and when we sort of dig down a little bit with a P cutter to put those recessed panel lines back in there, we'll find out that the plastic is still a bit soft and gooey, and it messes up our surface detail. So, you know, we really need to let that dry for a couple of days. Next up as well is we've got all this green putty inside here. We've left it to dry for a nice couple of days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a couple of skinny sticks. These skinny sticks are like perfect for this job. They are like, they're from Flurry Models, which, you know, you get them in pretty much any online store. Really cool product to use. The first one I'm going to be using is their it's almost like a medium sort of fine grit sanding stick, and this one's good. I like to use this one just to sort of get things started, right? And we can so easily get in here, have access, right? Because if we came in with, say, one of the bigger ones, you know, we just can't really get in there to get it done right. You know, it is got a sponge to it, which is what we want. We want it to sort of go with the curvature here, because you know, as you can see, this isn't a flat surface, it's got a bit of a curve. So, you know, always good to have a sponge sanding stick to go with that curve. And hopefully already you can see we have you know, basically sanded away most of that green putty, and what green putty is left in there is filling in that sort of ejector pin mark that's going on there. Then I like to come in with the blue sanding sticks, which are more sort of like fine, you know, and it's always good to sort of keep hold of maybe a really old used one as well, because then that sort of gets an even finer grit on it, which then just sort of like gets your plastic looking all nice and smooth when you sort of come in and work your way down the different grits, you know, starting off with the more coarser ones, working your way down to finer and finer and finer, so you know, your plastic looks all, you know, sort of, you know, as if it was just came out the mold. And then if we come back to this skinny stick, we turn it over and you do get like a buff on the opposite side. So it's always good to sort of come back in and you get this sort of a bit of a buff side going on here, and it just gets everything all, you know, back to being nice and smooth. And that will there take care of our bit of our air intake there, looking all nice and smooth, you know, ready for spraying. If we also jump back to our wing here as well, we did our bit of gluing on here. Now we've potentially got maybe some slight gaps, and we've got our join line here, and we want to get that sanded and get it taken care of all nicely, which is, you know, a fairly easy task. Now, looking at this, because we sort of took care of whatever gaps there were, you know, I'm looking at this and we really haven't got any gaps going on at all. It's a really good join, so it's nice and easy. We can come in with the blue sanding stick, the nice big one, and it is just a case of just lightly sanding that back, right? And because it's like a nice sponge sanding stick as well, it will go with, you know, any kind of curvature as well. I am sort of starting off by sanding up the top here, and then I'm sort of working my way around. Right, so we make sure we get rid of any kind of glue marks and get this all sanded nicely. Right, and after which, right, we can again, come back to, remember we've just used this sanding stick, but this is like the bigger form, sorry, and we can use the buff side, and again, we get that all nicely buffed up and looking all good. So then we've taken care of our leading edges, getting our leading edges looking all nicely sanded in there. And the whole idea is you want to make it look as if you haven't glued there. You don't want people to be able to come along once you finish the model and look at it and go, right, that's a join line there, that's a seam line there. You want them to kind of go, ooh, where was it this was glued together, or kind of go, oh, I know that glued together there, but well, you can't see any join lines, glue lines, seam lines. That's the way you want it. So you want to do that to all your pieces as well. So just moving along with the build, I have put our air intake and engine section together. Just a quick bit of white one end, bit of steel the other, and glued them together just to speed things up a little bit. Now the problem we have is there is a bit of a inaccuracy in this kit, and that is if we put on this piece, what you'll see when we turn this over is we do have this sort of, well, it feels like a step. We've got a line going on here. If you look at actual reference photos, you'll see that it's all smooth here. There's no recessed panel lines, there's no nothing, it's just all smooth. Right, so we've got this sort of, a fairly big-ish step to sort of deal with, right, and get that sanded, filled in, all nice and smooth. But really, to get rid of this step, really we need to sort of actually bring this piece upwards a bit. So to do this, first off, what we have is, you can see that there's this little sort of ledge going on here, and that is what sort of keeps our air intake piece down a bit, which gives us the steps. So I'm just going to come along here, and what we can do is, if I can just get you on camera nicely, is we just get our P cutter, right, and right on the edge. It's really easy. You don't have to have templates or anything like that. You can literally just drag along our P cutter, right, and we can just slowly cut into this. Right, as you can see, we're dragging along and we're pulling up bits of curls of plastic, and we just want to keep going until we literally cut all the way down. Okay. Now after sort of like cutting down for a bit, you'll start to see this little bit of a piece here start to come off now. So we could probably come in and just sort of easily finish this off with a blade. There we go, as you can see. Maybe just this little back bit here. Right, we can just now come in with maybe some cutters, finish that off. Again, we could come in with, say, a sanding stick and just sort of, just lightly. I mean, this doesn't have to look mega pretty. We just want to get that ledge off. We just want to remove that bit of a piece, right, leaving all the rest on top intact. So I'm going to do the other side as well. Right, with that now trimmed off, there is just a little bit. I have just done one side and left the other. Just in this corner here, we need to cut that bit off. As you can see, I haven't this side, and that is, we can come along with some cutters rather sort of easily. It's easy to follow as well. Right, give that a bit of a cut, give it a bit of a trim with a blade. Being careful, don't cut off loads. Right, maybe just cut off a bit, test fit. Right, and then what we have is if we then sort of put these on their little sort of pegs just there, get that into position, what we have then is if we sort of push in on this now, right, hopefully what you can see is I mean this will now sort of come above, but we just sort of line it up, right, so that we have no step, right. You may have to trim these corners out a little bit more like I just showed you, because there's still a little bit of a step there, but it isn't as bad as it was up the front here. Yeah, we're all good. So we could do with, as I say, a little bit of trimming either side of here, just so we can get this in a little bit better. All right, again, you know, don't trim off too much, because if you trim off too much, before you know it, you've then got a gap to deal with. All right, so hopefully that's a bit better, and hopefully we haven't got a gap to deal with now. So again, let's put these on their little pegs. All right, check the other side. All right, and you just want to feel for that step, which isn't looking too bad now at all. All right, so I'm kind of quite happy now to actually start gluing this in. All right, ish. Yeah, we're all good to sort of start gluing that in. So just taking this off, I want to, it's a little bit hard to sort of reach these little holes here where it glues the model together, so I'm just sort of getting a nice ample amount of glue in these. And actually, this is the one thing about Tammy-Rex thin cement is once it sort of gets down to a certain level, it sort of starts to get hard to actually get some of the Tammy-Rex thin cement on the end of the brush. So what I like to do is just get out a new bottle, and once this new bottle sort of reaches a certain level, I'll pour what's left in here into that one. It just saves you trying to get trying to get the glue actually onto your brush here. See, that's a lot better. We can get lots more glue into these. Right, I'm just going to pop these in now. Right, and then we want to sort of push this down a bit. Right, and then we just need to sort of hold this sort of into place a bit, because as you can see it's a bit sort of like flopping up and down, and we want to just get it just right, just in that right position where, you know, we don't get a step going on. Right, so to do this we're going to be using some Zappa Gap, which is some nice glue by Zappa. I'm using the medium CA glue, which is basically a normal sort of thickness, which is all we need. So we're just going to sort of like pour this on neat. Right, so on the back side we're just going to right where the front is just here, we can just put a little blob. We don't need anything excessive there at all. Right, and then it's just a case of sort of holding that in position, sort of holding it steady where you just feel that you're not going to get any steps going on. And then maybe just to speed things up, we can come in with some kicker and blow. And hopefully now it should hold that into position rather nicely without having like loads and loads of super glue down. Right, we just add that little bit in that corner there. Maybe, yes, we should probably sort of maybe put a little bit also in either of these corners as well, just to sort of make sure it's in position and it's going to dry in that position. So again, some quick blast there, hold it down and blow. And that should hopefully be good. So although it's not completely sort of eliminated 100% that step going on there, it has improved it a hell of a lot than it was. So it just means we're not going to be putting down loads and loads of filler, which when it comes to putting filler down, the less filler you can put down the better, because it's, you know, the more filler that goes down, you've got more chance of shrinkage, the more you got to sand away, the more problematic it's going to be. So, you know, getting it as less filler as we can is good. So I'm just going to let that dry. In fact, I mean, really, you know, now it's super glue, I mean, that's going to be pretty dry. It's when we put on the Tamiya extra thin cement to fully sort of glue this into place, yeah, that's what we want to sort of let to dry for a little bit before we come along with a whole bunch of different types of fillers.